Hey everyone, welcome back to the Casual Watch Review channel. In my defense, I started out, I was going to do a very nice how-to on how to adjust the bracelet of this watch. Once I did that and started doing the wrist shots, wore the bracelet for the day, I can honestly say this is probably one of the worst bracelets I have ever seen on a watch, and I've reviewed hundreds of watches, as you've seen on the channel, right from $15 Amazon bracelets right up to the high-end bracelets. This by far is the worst out of any of them. Quite surprised at how bad this bracelet is. It isn't clickbait, this really is one of the worst bracelets I have ever seen on a watch. Before I start, as I mentioned with my last Grand Seiko video where I didn't like the watch, I'm sure there is a lot of you out there that have this watch, the Marathon GSAR, and have the bracelet, the stock bracelet, and you think it's awesome. I get it. This could just be a one-off. I can only go off my experience on this. Hopefully I'll do a good job of explaining why I think this bracelet is so awful, so at least you get an alternative perspective on it. And if you are thinking of buying this bracelet, watch a couple of other reviews on it. There isn't many, to be fair, but watch a couple of others and, you know, take this as part of your research. What watch are we talking about? We're talking about the Marathon GSAR. If you're not familiar with this watch, it was developed for the Canadian search and rescue teams. They have been, I believe, issued to other military services, but this is the Marathon dive watch with the Sellita SW200. I got this in a trade, although I have had the previous one, which was quartz. I had one that was quartz, but I got this one in a trade, and very happy to get one back in the collection. This came on the rubber strap. When I had the quartz one, I think it also came on a rubber strap, but not a Marathon rubber strap. And I've always been very interested in the metal bracelet that Marathon sell aftermarket for this, and they also have a model where you can buy it with the metal bracelet on, but the cost has always put me off. They're usually about $360 for an aftermarket bracelet, which I guess you could argue for a high-end watch like this. The watch itself is on sale at the moment for $1,200. But as I'd got the watch in a trade, I looked at it as only being $360 to get the complete watch with the bracelet, so I thought I would go for it. When you retrieve the strap, it is quite weighty. Here is some footage of when I was going to do this as a how-to video. The watch bracelet is easy to adjust. It has the screw-in links, but you have to put 2 screwdrivers in it because it's a collar, one of those long screws where another screw attaches into it. I don't know the technical name, but essentially you have to torque it from both sides to undo it. That was fairly easy, and then I like to take equal links from either side, always making sure the buckle is square on my wrist for a secure fit. If you have seen other reviews, they talk about the clasp on this watch, and frankly, it's an embarrassment, this clasp. They have put what is probably a $10 clasp on a $360 bracelet. There is much better clasp systems on other watches, in fact almost any other watch. It feels cheap, it looks cheap, it rattles. Here is a Jack Mason watch that I recently reviewed with a ratcheted clasp on their bracelet, and their bracelet is much cheaper than this aftermarket, and also comes included on there. I think they're $900 watches. Here is another clasp on a Detroit Mint watch that is many times superior than this Marathon watch, and that entire watch is only $245. So here's a couple of examples that I've shown you of bracelets that are cheaper but have a much better clasp system. But the clasp system is functional, it closes the watch, it'll never pop over, it just feels cheap. But that is not actually my gripe with the bracelet, because of course that is livable with. First off, I'll say this bracelet on the watch looks awesome. It really elevates the look of the watch. The fitted end links fit beautifully to the watch case. So I adjusted the bracelet. It's a shame it doesn't have a ratcheted system on it, because that is always awesome. I live in a hot part of Florida and my wrist does swell, so I like to ratchet it out a bit when I'm wearing it outside. But the big problem with this bracelet is that it is just not that comfortable. In fact, it really irritated my wrist when I was wearing it. Each of the links consists of 3 pieces, but they don't properly articulate at the side where there isn't a screw. Also, the edges are very sharp of the bracelet. So after a day of wearing it, it was painful because it was rubbing my skin. If we look here, the interior link is slightly askew from the other link, and there is a sharp edge there, so that constantly rubbing up and down my wrist caused quite a bit of irritation. I've tried to do a bit of a science experiment here. It didn't totally work, but I'm going to show you what I attempted to do. I put a bit of Sharpie on a plastic rod here, and then I rubbed a G-Shock up and down it. A little bit of the Sharpie came off just because of the friction, and then I tried it again with the Marathon. As you'll see, if I press down a little bit, it's scraping off the Sharpie. And if you see now, if I turn the bracelet the other way round, the Sharpie marks, or where the ink has come from the plastic, you'll see how it's clearly defined where that internal sharp edge is. This may seem minor, but it was extremely irritating on my wrist. As you'll see, again, some of the red marks just from a day of wearing it, and it just completely put me off this bracelet. Sure, I've had a few bracelets where they're hair pullers, some of the old Seiko bracelets that we've seen on the speed timers and stuff like that, they're real hair pullers, but I've never paid so much for a bracelet and have it wear so uncomfortably to the point of it really irritating my wrist. I honestly can't recommend it. Maybe the machining on mine was off. Because these links don't articulate, it does seem like they should be flush. I don't know if there's a way of me being able to grind that edge down, the internal edge. I'm sure I'll make a mess of it if I take a Dremel to it, but at this point, there might not be an option. I might have to do it. There isn't a lot of YouTube reviews, so it is really hard to tell. And a lot of the reviews, even on the Marathon site, talk about what a cheap cop-out the clasp is, but they don't often talk about the comfort of the bracelet. And it is a shame because it does make the watch look awesome. Let me know if you do own this strap in the comment section down below if you've experienced this, or maybe you love it. Maybe this is just a one-off. Join us over on the live streams on a Tuesday and a Sunday. Give your opinion live. Let me know what you think. Always appreciate you watching. See you next time on Casual Watch Reviews.